Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with the practice questions for the day, a quick gentle reminder. The first session of Target Prelims 2023 will start from today at 7:30 p.m. The session will be for about 2 hours from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So watch us live on our YouTube channel so that you understand everything about the current affairs topics that have been in news for the past 365 days. The first session would be with respect to the Indian economy. This would be the schedule. First, what we will have is the Indian economy, followed by Indian polity from April 28th, environment and ecology, science and technology, international relations, government schemes, reports and indices, places in news, all will be covered as part of our Target Prelims 2023. Let's get started and look into the first question. Anubhava Mantapa, which is considered to be the first parliament of the world, was established by Basavanna, Krishnadevaraya, Krishnaraja Vodayar, Pulakesin. The answer to this is Basavanna. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to Basava. Basava is also called as Basavanna. Basava is also called as Basaveshwara. He happens to be a social reformer from the state of Karnataka. He comes up with a unique concept called as Anubhava Mantapa. What is this Anubhava Mantapa? Anubhava is a Kannada word which basically stands for experience, and Mantapa basically stands for a platform. So it is this particular place that was created by Basavanna. So people who have spiritual knowledge, people who have encountered their own experiences, all come up to this particular place of Anubhava Mantapa and they share their experiences with respect to philosophy, spirituality, so on and so forth. So basically, this concept of Anubhava Mantapa was established by Basavanna in the 12th century. It happens to be the first religious parliament in the world, whose literal meaning is nothing but experience pavilion, and this happens to be a fountainhead of all religious and philosophical thought pertaining to the Lingayat community. So basically, people from all strata, it may include people from different castes, people who've gone through different shades of life, all come up and ultimately they share their philosophical and the spiritual experiences. So everybody, without any discrimination, it can be the men, it can be the women, it can be people from different castes, all come up and they are provided equal opportunity by social reformer Basavanna, and they are made to think rationally, they are made to think logically, they are made to think pragmatically so that they are able to connect with the spiritual aspect of God. So according to Anubhava Mantapa, it basically stands for unity of God, and it also means that polytheism can also be rejected as well. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section during whose regime did Basavanna bring about all these changes. So during whose regime he brought these changes is what you have to put on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to midday meals. The National Food Security Act of 2013 contains provisions related to welfare schemes including midday meal scheme. Midday meal rules of 2015 provide for temporary utilization of other funds available with the school for midday meal in case school exhausts MDM funds for any reason. The place of serving meals to the children shall be school only. If the midday meal is not provided in school on any school day due to non-availability of food grains, cooking cost, fuel or absence of cook cum helper or any other reason, the central government shall pay Food Security Alliance. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to midday meals. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, yes, the National Food Security Act has provisions with respect to the midday meal scheme. So what is this midday meal scheme? Basically, this is provided to the children who are enrolled in the government schools, government aided schools, local body schools, special training centers, madrasas and maktabs supported under the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. What is the objective of the midday meal scheme? One is to provide nutritional meal to the children. Second is to provide education to the children. Third is to make sure they attend the schools and gain the knowledge and retain the children studying in classes between 1 to 8. And ultimately, this will increase the enrollment. This will increase the attendance in the schools is the basic objective of the midday meal scheme. When you look into the second statement, midday meal rules 2015 provide for temporary utilization of the funds available with the school for MDM in case school exhausts MDM funds for any reason. Let's say for example, the schools have been given some funds for the midday meal scheme. What if this funds that is being given to the schools are exhausted? In that case, the school management would be able to take funds from their school. They can also spend as well, and if they so want it, they can also say to the state governments and ultimately get reimbursed. So basically, the funds, if it gets exhausted for a temporary period of time, they can make use of their own school funds and ultimately lay claim to this over a period of time from the state government. So second statement is also right. The place of serving meals to the children shall be school only. This statement is also right. So this basically means that where children will be provided the food, it will be only in the schools. So there will be a accredited lab. The accredited lab will check the quality of the food, the quantity of the food provided to the children. It will be evaluated and also certified by the Government Food Research Laboratory as well. So third statement is also right. But when it comes to the fourth statement, such an allowance will not be given by the central government, but instead it is by the state government. So remember, such allowances, if children are not provided with food, they will be given an allowance by the state government and not by the central government. Now let's look into some important facts. Under the MDM rules, schools are empowered to utilize other funds for midday meal scheme in case MDM funds get exhausted. On occasions where schools and other required bodies are unable to provide cooked meals to children, they are to provide food allowances to beneficiaries, and this will be provided by the state government and not by the central government. Accredited labs to take on the monthly testing of meals on a random basis. And when it comes to the model of implementation, we have the decentralized model, centralized model and international assistance model for the implementation. So every school shall have the facility for cooking meal in hygienic manner, and this is the process of implementation. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to Financial Stability Board? It is an international body that monitors and makes recommendation about the global financial system. It was established in 2009 under the aegis of G33. The Financial Stability and Developmental Council Secretariat in the Department of Economic Affairs coordinates with various financial sector regulators and other relevant agencies to represent India's view with the FSB. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to Financial Stability Board, which is why we have taken this practice question. What is it about the Financial Stability Board? Yes, this happens to be an international body that monitors, makes recommendation about the global financial system. If you look into the first statement, it was established in 2009, yes, but not under the aegis of G33, but instead it was set up by the G20. So the first statement is wrong because it was not established by G33, but it was established after the G20 London Summit in 2009. This happens to have number of national authorities, standard setting bodies, international financial institutions for addressing all the financial vulnerabilities and having a supervisory jurisdiction in the interest of the financial stability. So basically, the board includes all G20 major economies, European Commission, and this is funded by the Bank of International Settlements. The board is also based in Basel, Switzerland. Unlike other financial institutions, this board lacks a treaty and it does not have a formal power, but it works informally and also has non-binding memorandum when it comes to cooperation between all the countries. So what are the objectives of the Financial Stability Board? This will basically strengthen prudential oversight of capital, liquidity and risk management. It will also bring in transparency when it comes to the financial stability. It will want to change the credit ratings that have been hitting the global economy. It also seeks to strengthen the responsiveness when it comes to the financial risk, and at the same time it will also make robust arrangements for dealing with the stress when it comes to the financial system. Now when it comes to India, how does India deal with the Financial Stability Board is the second statement. So what we have is the Financial Stability and Developmental Council Secretariat in the Department of Economic Affairs, which deals with FSB. So what we have is the basic interaction with the FSB takes place through the periodic conference calls, meetings and information is ultimately shared between India and the Financial Stability Board. So what we will have is the frequent meetings and the information that is gathered will be exchanged between India and Financial Stability Board. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following are part of the basic structure doctrine? Separation of powers, presidential form of government, effective access to justice, freedom and dignity of the individual, harmony and balance between fundamental rights and directive principles. The answer to this is 1, 3, 4 and 5 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to basic structure doctrine. Let us try and understand what are these statements. What is this basic structure doctrine? This happens to be a doctrine. Is it mentioned in the Constitution of India? No. If there is a question which says that the basic structure doctrine finds a mention in the Constitution, the answer to this is no. Nowhere in the Constitution is a word called as basic structure doctrine, but this happens to be a judicial innovation. So what is this basic structure doctrine? This basic structure doctrine basically believes that there are some basic tenets for the Constitution. Let's say for example we have the secularism, we have the judicial review. These aspects which are considered as the basic tenets, the core principles of the Constitution, cannot be amended even by the legislative power. It cannot be amended by 368. So there are some basic principles, basic premises, basic foundation on which the Constitution is built. This cannot be amended despite the powers given to the legislative body. So there are these aspects which include separation of powers, that is the separation between the legislature, executive and the judiciary. In which article is there mention of separation of executive with the judiciary is what you have to mention on the comment section. Is presidential form of government part of basic structure? No. What we have is the parliamentary form. So the second statement is wrong. Effective access to justice? Yes, it is part of basic structure. Freedom and dignity of the individual? Yes, it is part of basic structure. Harmony and balance between fundamental rights and directive principles? Yes, it is part of basic structure. So what you have to put on the comment section is the separation of powers is mentioned between executive and judiciary in which article. So basically when we speak about the basic structure doctrine, we have the supremacy of the Constitution, unity and sovereignty of India, democratic and republic form, federal character, secular character, separation of power, individual freedom, rule of law, judicial review, parliamentary system, rule of equality, free and fair elections, limited power of parliament to amend the Constitution. All these are some of the basic tenets which are part of the basic structure doctrine which the Supreme Court has evolved over a period of time. And as part of the assignment, you also have to put on the comment section, there is one country which is our neighboring country, which also says that basic provisions of the Constitution are not amendable, and this is present in their Constitution in the form of an article. Which country are we speaking about is what you have to put on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. What is bisphenol A? A medical test for detecting cancer, a test for testing the use of drugs to improve performance by athletes, a chemical used for the development of food packaging materials, a special type of alloy steel. What is bisphenol A? this happens to be a chemical used for the development of food packaging materials. This is a previous year question from the year 2008. So bisphenol A is commonly abbreviated as BPA, and this happens to be an organic compound with two phenol functional group, and this bisphenol A is primarily used to make plastic, which is used in making food packaging material. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is census of water bodies. When it comes to water, it is a very important component in all our lives. Water happens to be the basic need for the survival of the human beings, and it is also part of the right to health as well. It is also part of right to life and human rights as enshrined in the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. And this water is also very important when it comes to the sustainable development goals. It plays a major role when it comes to economic growth, supporting the healthy system, and is also a fundamental object for the sustenance of the life. So what is that we have to do? We have to conserve the water, we have to ensure that pollution does not happen to the water, and we have to ensure that we have the right amount of water for ourselves and also for the future generation. In order to ensure that all this is taken into picture, the government of India has launched the census of the water bodies. The census was launched under the centrally sponsored scheme Irrigation Census in convergence with the sixth minor irrigation census in order to have a comprehensive national database of all water bodies. The information on all important aspects of water bodies, including their type, condition, status of encroachments, use, storage capacity, status of filling up the storage, etc., was collected during this census. Let us look at data given as part of this census. When we look into the status, 24,24,540 water bodies have been enumerated in the country, out of which 97.1% are in rural areas and only 2.9% are in urban areas. So this particular census will give us an idea as to what are the water bodies which are natural in form, which are man-made water bodies like ponds, tanks, lakes, so on and so forth, and ultimately it will give us a clear-cut picture as to how many water bodies are in rural areas, how many water bodies are present in the urban areas, and the water divide between the rural and the urban areas. So the major concern, as pointed out in the first pointer, is that this happens to be a major concern, that we have more water bodies in the rural areas in comparison to the urban areas. The urban areas have very less water bodies in comparison to rural areas, and this happens to be a major concern. So this means that the census is highlighting disparity between rural and the urban areas. Top 5 states in terms of water bodies are West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and Assam. Top 5 states in terms of number of water bodies in urban areas are West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh and Tripura. 59.5% of the water bodies are ponds, followed by tanks, reservoirs, water conservation schemes, dams, lakes and others, and 55.2% of the water bodies are owned by private entities, whereas 44.8% of the water bodies are in the domain of public ownership. So kindly go through these statistics. It can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. What is the significance of this water census? With these details given by the central government in terms of the size, status, storage capacity, they would be able to identify which are the problematic areas, which region does not have much of the water, and ultimately ensure that water is provided to these regions, and conservation efforts are also taken up, and awareness is also given to the people, so they would be able to make informed decisions when it comes to urban planning and rural water conservation schemes and programs. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.